Hey, Contractor Life Academy fam, what's up? So I wanted to post a quick video in response to some of the questions that I've seen in the group regarding recruiting and trying to find the right people. There are some specific strategies and some tactics that you can deploy that'll put you in a better position to find good help. Now, here's the thing that I found over the years is that good help is relative, right? So here are some ideas and some tips, tactics, and strategies that you might be able to use that'll get you closer to finding that right candidate. The first one I found over the years is that people are trying to hire for hard skills. So you guys want people out in the field, swinging the hammer, laying concrete, doing whatever it is. And what I've found over the years is that ultimately we can teach people how to be tradesmen. We can teach them the skills that it requires to be able to get the job done. Now, obviously, if you're looking for a foreman or kind of an advanced kind of trades guy, obviously they have to have another level of skill set, right? And we can talk about that later. But what I have found to be the most successful is first think about what are the soft skills that that person needs to possess to be a good candidate for my company. So we want to actually identify what an ideal candidate profile looks like. What are those key attributes that this person would want to possess that then makes them someone who's moldable but has the soft skills that are more hardwired? We always say I can teach people how to be a good tradesman, but I can't teach somebody how to be a good person. So for my company, some things that we think about, and it kind of fits along with our culture, is that we want people to have a student mentality, always be interested in improving oneself, learning new things, learning more about the business, seeking self-improvement, right? Not just in their job, but also personally. The other thing, for example, for our sales guys, they might need to be somewhat competitive. So we'll make sure that we interview and place ads and do things that align with someone's competitive nature when I really don't need a competitive person as my bookkeeper. I need somebody who's a little more detail oriented, for example. And also think about that. I don't have to have somebody who has years and years and years of QuickBooks skill, but I do need someone who has the hardwired skill of being detail oriented in that position. And then we can either send them to classes, maybe they already have experience in QuickBooks, there's continuing education. So think about the things that are going to be hard to teach, but you still need them to be a component of what they do on the job. So once you have that ideal candidate profile, those attributes kind of laid out, the next thing is you have to think about creating an ad that's going to speak specifically to those attributes. So if I want somebody who has a competitive nature, my ad might read something like, love working in a team, like being a team player, like being top of the class, like competition, get excited when your favorite team wins a ball game. This is the right place for you. That's the type of ad that we're going to place that speaks to that. However, that ad may not speak to somebody who's detail-oriented or a bookkeeper that I'm looking for. The problem we run into as contractors is we kind of get this cookie-cutter ad and we copy and paste it for all the different positions where we're looking for and expecting that we're going to get some amazing candidates, and it's just not the case. So now that we have this ideal candidate profile figured out, we have ads that are created specifically to speak to that ideal candidate, right? We need to place those. And of course, you have your traditional Indeed and Glassdoor and different companies you can place those with. But also be thinking about where do people that have those attributes actually hang out? What social media platforms are they on? Where are they spending their time? What do they have their eyes on? And the purpose for that is that you want to have your ad have that opportunity, that job opportunity, have your company in front of the eyes of the people that have those particular attributes. Now listen, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be available for employment at that moment, but there might be a day when they say, you know what, I've had it here, I'm over it. And when they start thinking about a new place of employment, that ad, that video that they saw, that text or whatever it is starts to play in their mind. They refer back to that, and all of a sudden now you've got a great candidate that was working somewhere else, for example. So if I know that the guys that I want to hire on my sales team are hanging out at sports bars or cigar shops or sports clubs or Top Golf, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting ads placed or my company is in that environment. So when the time comes, they see that and they're ready to respond. You can also utilize, of course, your social media platforms. And sometimes an ad doesn't necessarily have to speak to an open position. It can speak to a culture. And whenever we interview someone, of course, we're going to create an interview process that has questions that starts to draw out whether somebody possesses the experience and the attributes. But we also want to make sure that people are aware of just who we are as a company and what our culture is like. So when they see that, they go, gosh, that's probably a really cool place to work. May mean that they're comfortable in their current environment, but when the day comes that they're not, you are somebody they're going to be thinking about and may reach out to you. So there's some different things that you can do. If you really want to get tech heavy, you can geofence different places. For example, you can take Facebook, you can drill down a demographic of who that ideal candidate might be. You can then create a fence around a competitive company. You can create a fence around those sports bars and golf places that we talked about, so that when these potential candidates walk into those environments, right, if they're working at getting supplies from a supply house and they walk in the door, all of a sudden, boom, an ad goes into their Facebook feed about your open position. So that's one way to do it. Another thing that we'll do is we'll give gift cards, for example, like a Visa card that you can load money onto. We'll maybe load $20 and we'll hand out 10, 15, 20 of those around supply houses, pro desks, anywhere that maybe a laborer, a contractor, a tradesman, a skilled tradesman might encounter this person and they go, you know what, I'm thinking about making a change. And what you're doing with that gift card is you're handing it to Joe at the pro desk at Home Depot and saying, hey, Joe, you know what? I wanted to give you this. We're currently looking for a person to fill XYZ position. If you happen to run across anybody that you think might be a good candidate, if you could pass them my card, if they come interview with me, I'm going to load $50 onto this Visa card for you. If we happen to hire that person, if they do 3 jobs, work for us for 90 days, whatever it is, I'm going to load another $250 onto this card. But in the meantime, you know what I did? I put $20 on there. Go enjoy some lunch on us and just keep your ears open for a good candidate. Would you do that for me? What you're starting to create is this tribe of people that are interested in helping you out because of that law of reciprocity. You know, I scratch your back, you're going to want to scratch mine. So, you know, be thinking outside of the box in ways that you can use people that you know in these relationships to get the word out. Also, don't forget about your own company. If you have a team of guys, maybe it's 1 guy, maybe it's 15 guys. Get them in a room, buy them some lunch, and sit down and say, do me a favor, DM through Facebook, Instagram, whatever, 20 people that you're friends with or follow you and say, hey, we've got this open position. Here's what it looks like. Do you happen to know anybody who might be a good fit? So now again, you're leveraging this community of people that you know to help you find a good candidate. And if they care about you, they're not going to want to send you a schlub, right? So here's a few things that you can do. Now that you've got this ideal candidate, you've got the right ad copy going out, you've got this band of people working for you, you're leveraging technology. The other thing that you can do is make sure that you have an interview process that puts you in a position to be able to know if these candidates possess these attributes, right? So asking the right kinds of questions to find out, is Joe competitive? Is Sally detail-oriented? For example, and then score those individual applications and interviews. You have to have a metric. You have to have something that's measurable, that's objective, not subjective, so that you can look back at those and go, you know what, I personally liked Sally a lot more. She's kind of more my type of people. But ultimately, Nancy was the person that scored better, and she's the one that's going to serve the company better at the end of the day. Now that you have that candidate and you're getting ready to offer them the position and onboard them, one of the biggest mistakes that contractors make is they don't actually have a process of onboarding that person and then putting them in a position to be successful. And what that means is having laid out what their deliverables are. What are they responsible for actually delivering to the company in the form of their process of doing their job? What does success look like? What is a win and what is a loss when it comes to what they're actually bringing to the company and what they're actually executing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? So having those things laid out and then following up initially when they're first onboarded on a weekly basis, every other week, monthly basis, whatever that cadence is, a lot of contractors don't actually have a way to let that new candidate, that new employee know how they're doing, whether they're on track, whether they're being successful or not. And when it comes to guys on the tools, we have this tendency because we're so dang busy, we just need guys to fill a slot. The guy goes, yep, I've been swinging a hammer for 5 or 10 years, give 5 or 10. And we're like, cool, see you on the job site on Monday. And then we just throw them out there and they sink or swim. And then we go, oh, that guy wasn't a good candidate. He was a bum. I'm tired of finding bums. I can never find good people. Well, I think as contractors, of owner of contracting businesses, we need to take ownership and realize that sometimes we are the biggest hurdle in people being successful out in the field. We have to come alongside them. And just because somebody's been in the contracting space for 10 years doing some particular specific job set, a skill set, doesn't mean that it's the way that your company does it, right? There's a lot of different ways to hammer a nail. So at the end of the day, you might have a specific way and you just got to come alongside and say, hey, I see you're getting it done, but I'd like you to do it this way. Let's follow up over the course of the next couple of weeks, make sure you're doing that. So that takes time. You have to have a training process, a little list of boxes that you can check that you say, hey, this guy's learned this, check. Hey, he's doing this right, check. You're doing well here, check. So that you can start to see that progress and that success and then hold not only that candidate accountable, but also you as the owner, trainer, lead accountable for getting them onboarded correctly. And the last thing that I would leave you with is make sure that you are hiring people that fit with your culture. Brian Scudamore of 1-800-JUNK and a bunch of other franchises, I think they're doing $1 billion a year right now, say that one of his processes is kind of a beer buddy founder's heart mentality. So, would we want to go out and have a beer with this guy? If so, cool. Check that box. Would we invite him to the barbecue? Would they represent our company to our friends and our family and our neighbors adequately? Would he be a good representation of our culture and who we are as a company? If so, check. And then do they have a founder's heart? Just because somebody is out there swinging a hammer day to day, cutting up sod, whatever it is, doesn't mean they shouldn't have a mentality of thinking about how can they do their job better? How can they give a better customer experience? How can they contribute more to the company? So there's a lot of things to consider. And yes, it's hard to find good people. But if you're diligent and recruit every single week, guys will simply recruit when they're in panic mode and they have to have somebody, instead of having a system or a process of recruiting every single week so that you can start to weed out the people that don't fit. Because ultimately, just for a case of numbers, you're going to run into that candidate. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy's perfect. But it's a numbers game. You have to be interviewing a lot of people to get to that one individual that's gonna fit. So don't forget to look at different platforms that might help you with this. Indeed, for example, has an internal dashboard you can jump on. We use Bamboo HR that helps us sort through candidates, send automated emails, score our candidates, help us with the HR side of getting them onboarded and things like that and training. So there's a lot of ways that you can be successful as a contractor in finding good, excellent people to onboard to your company. It just takes diligence. It takes being intentional with your processes. It's about thinking through all the different steps that it takes to bring somebody on, because recruiting is expensive, it's time consuming, and it can just put a real drag on your company and eat up your ability to grow. So hope these were some helpful tips for you. Again, check out the free content. Appreciate you guys being part of the community, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.